Hello, my name is Jonathan Lee, and this is a story reading that I wrote. It is called Tales of Tortured Women. Story number one. Janet was 23 years old, a secretary drowning in misery and buried under the weight of crushing debt. She sat hunched over her desk in the dimly lit office, the soft click-clack of her keyboard filling the stale air. Her fingers moved mechanically, the repetitive motion leaving them stiff and aching. Dark circles underlined her eyes, and her thoughts were as heavy as the fluorescent light buzzing overhead. Her boss, Peter, strode through the office with the ease of a man untouched by struggle dozed beneath him. He was sharply dressed, his tailored suit a testament to his privilege. He carried himself with the air of affluence that came not from merit, but from inheritance. An alumnus of a fancy university, Peter had the look of success, oily hair, a face so symmetrical it looked angelic, and a charming smile, but his exterior was a mask. Beneath it lay the rot of entitlement and unchecked power. Peter was a predator, a harasser, indiscriminate in his cruelty. Gender, sexuality, race, none of it mattered. Everyone in the office knew his rep. They whispered about his lecture stares, the demeaning comments, and the way his hands lingered too long in every handshake. Yet nothing ever bad happened to him. His father and his uncle and his grandpa were titans of the organization. It was a family company since the early 20th century, and their protection was absolute. No one dared to speak out against Peter, and those who tried were silenced, dismissed, or quietly shuffled out of the company. Janet was his new target. She felt his eyes on her constantly, like a weight pressing against her back. Whenever she glanced up, she would find him watching her, his gaze crawling over like something physical, invasive. Each day he grew bolder, leaning too close, brushing her hair unnecessarily when passing her papers, finding excuses to summon her to his office. She hated the way his cologne lingered in the air long after he's gone, a cloying reminder of his presence. One day, the harassment crossed another line. Peter cornered her in the break room, his smile sharp, predatory, sneaky. "You're looking tired, Janet," he said, his voice dripping with mock concern. "Maybe you need to take a break. My office is always open for you." She recoiled, her stomach twisting with disgust. "No," she said firmly, her voice trembling. "Please, stop." Peter smiled and faltered, but his eyes hardened. Her refusal meant nothing to him. Her words, her tears, her boundaries, none of it mattered. He spent his life taking what he wanted without consequences. He saw no reason why this time would be any different. Janet left the break room, feeling hollow and sick. She wanted to scream, to tell someone, anyone, but the walls of the office felt impenetrable. She was trapped in a world where Peter's wealth and connection rendered him untouchable, and her own struggle, her own pain, seemed inevitable. She returned to her desk and stared at the keyboard, the letters blurring through her tears. As much as she wanted to believe she could fight back, part of her knew the cost. This job, as sucky as it was her lifeline. Without it, her debt would drown her, and the start of starting over what felt like a distant climb, and so she sat, typing words that no longer mattered, while Peter's shadow loomed large and larger. Story number two. Kimberly's swollen belly felt heavier with each passing day, a constant reminder of the life growing inside her and the choices that had brought her. At 17 years old and 37 weeks pregnant, she sat on the edge of her bed in a small room, staring at the pile of baby clothes that her aunt gifted her last week. The pastel colors and tiny onesie should have brought her joy. But all she felt was a sharp ache, a mixture of resentment, shame, and a flicker of hope she couldn't quite extinguish. Harry. She thought he was different. At first he seemed charming in a way only someone privileged and the world at her feet could be. But he wasn't like the other white boys in her neighborhood who sneered at her for being too quiet or too smart, who told her she thought she was better than everyone else. Harry pursued her relentlessly with his floppy golden hair, self-assured smile, and promised that she was different. He called her beautiful in ways that made her believe him, made her seem so beautiful. For a moment it was magical, but when Kimberly told him she was pregnant, everything changed. He stood there, silent at first, before the words tumbled out like venom. This isn't my problem. You take care of it, right? When she refused, when she told him she would keep the baby no matter what, Harry's mask fell. He stopped answering her calls, stopped acknowledging her presence. In the weeks and months that followed, she saw pictures of him on social media with other girls, their hands on his shoulder, their white smiles, wild and carefree. The sight of him laughing, happy while she endured sleepless nights and endless nausea twisted the knife deeper. To him, she had been nothing more than a chocolate prop, as he jokingly called her, a temporary thrill, an exotic distraction. Her community was any better. The whispers had started almost immediately after she began to show. Older women shook their heads and muttered, "Fooling around with that white boy, what did you expect?" The boys she'd grown up mocked her openly. "Thought you were too good for us, huh, Kim? Look where that got you." Even some of her so-called friends drifted away, uncomfortable with the scandal and the constant reminder of what they wanted to avoid. Kimberly felt trapped between two worlds that seemed to reject her. Harry's world of wealth and privilege had used her and discarded her. Her own community seemed to hold her mistake, her sin against her, unwilling to offer any support or understanding. Yet as lonely as she was, Kim refused to let their scorn break her. Every night she prayed and prayed.